No.
Nobody's gonna miss me. I'm dead.
I'm not just blowing smoke in your face either. Dead Space 2 is one of the most iconic horror games ever made, and I've made so many videos about it on this channel, I don't really think there's a point in going over it any further, but that's how much I love it. I just can't stop talking about it. Every couple months or so, I always find myself seeing something relating to Dead Space 2, or reminding me that the game exists, and it always makes me want to play the game again. This time, this excuse, I happened to be on Facebook and saw another little snippet on the official Dead Space page where they posted a video of the remake. Now, as all of you might know if you've watched the channel for a while, I've told you I have played and completed the remake of Dead Space. And at the time, I said it was really good. And that is true. Much like Resident Evil 4, I do think that the remake offers something for somebody. In my honest and brutal opinion, once you take a step back and look on everything that you've said or done in terms of a property, for example, after I watched my review of the remake for Resident Evil 4, I kind of started questioning my own opinion, if that makes sense. I wondered if the game I played was supposed to be similar or I guess up to par with the original, but I am here to discuss one major thing that I just have a really bad feeling about. Should Dead Space 2 be remade? In my opinion, no. And this is why.
When I turned 13 years old, I played Dead Space 2 for the very first time in my life. My father spent $60 on a fresh PlayStation 3 copy of the game, and it arrived at my house by mail no later than a day. I've told this story countless times now when discussing the greatest horror game of all time, which I believe to be Dead Space 2. It's got everything you love about a horror sequel. Better action, better controls, and a more gripping story than the first that continues to unfold and peel away like rotting organic flesh. It's a masterpiece of a trilogy in my opinion, and I don't think anything comes remotely close to it today. Yes, even the remake of the first game. Now let me clarify, because this video will probably confuse a lot of you. I've played remakes of games and even reviewed some of them on this channel, but the problem with this was I would rush to get the video out before really taking a step back and re-evaluating the experience I had. The best example I can give is to the Resident Evil 4 remake. I haven't played that game since it released. I completed the main story one time for the sake of reviewing it thoroughly, but near the end, I couldn't bring myself to have as much fun with it as I did the 2005 version. I can't do it justice, just go watch Krobcat's video titled Resident Evil 4 Without the Soul. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It might be called Resident Evil 4, but this modern remake suffers from the same fucking problem that the third one did. It's kinda just a carbon copy and paste of the original game, but with slightly different graphics, controls, animations, and a storyline that doesn't feel as creepy nor intense as before. The atmosphere was good, sure, but Leon never really felt weak. He was always making quips and doing some stupid action stunt that made him seem like a god at martial arts. There's no build-up with scares in my opinion, and the creepy parts that are implemented there don't scare me. They just make me kind of feel like I'm wasting time. That's right, because I firmly believe that video game remakes by today's standards are fucking scams and only bank on your nostalgia. These game companies don't give a flying shit whether or not you want their remake to be right up to par with the original, or better, which it should be. They're gonna make it however they want, and it's almost always completely different from how the game played before. How it felt, actually, is more fitting. Sorry, I'm going on a bit of a tangent and none of you know what the fuck I'm talking about. Today, I'm here to talk about why I fear that we might be getting a Dead Space 2 remake at some point due to the success of the first game. A lot of you might be wondering, why would I be scared of that? Well, there's a lot of reasons. From the small details to the large ones. Dead Space 2 is what I consider to be the big motherfucker of the horror genre. It will forever be studied only as time goes on with its extremely loyal fanbase and addictive nature. Much like the marker itself, the game lures you in every time you step into it, calling you into the void of destruction that awaits at the heels of your bloodied boots. In the past, I've mentioned that playing RE4 a decade and some change later can sometimes surprise me with a neat thing I never noticed before. That game is kinda like an I Spy book. I'm always looking in areas all over the fucking place to discover new things that I hadn't noticed before. Even today, players grind in hopes to find more buried secrets. Dead Space 2 is the exact same thing. While I know what to expect when launching it up, I can't help but feel as though I'm still in massive amounts of danger. No matter how much I memorize this masterpiece, there's always another abomination hiding in the darkness that jumps out when I least expect it. The mark of a great horror game is determined by the fact that it still gives me the heebie-jeebies. The first time I stumbled into Isaac's boots, I was nervous as all hell. You're essentially playing as the last ant of a dying colony against an entire army of grasshoppers, and they're all hungry. Fortunately, you're given a plethora of utensils and tools to use in defense of your well-being, and you have the ability to use those big footsie-wootsies too. In life, we're often told to look at the little things in order to appreciate what we've sacrificed to get there. Through our toughest battles, we will triumph, so long as we're willing to take that extra step and make a change for the better. I believe the same thing applies to Dead Space 2, and that's what my first point will be about. The little things. As a kid, I was always hyper-fixated on a new series of games depending on my interest level. What I mean is, I really liked seeing how things were done, and watching behind the scenes for some of my favorite games has proven to be not only more informative on my part, but a treasure in itself. The developers genuinely cared about delivering a solid sequel to their previous game, and it shows in every aspect. The cutscenes are there to push the story along as usual, but the environments are something special. Scattered all throughout the world, you'll see countless different things that'll at least make you chuckle or do a double take. Did you know that when you're in the Cassini Towers, each of the apartment doors has a camera attached to the center module? It's nothing more than a JPEG attached to a fake screen, but it's eerie that you can essentially see the contents of an abandoned room without ever going inside. Just by looking at some of these camera panels, you can guesstimate what happened to the property owners as the events of the apocalypse unfold before you. In fact, some of these doors can reveal really creepy audio cues that don't seem to ever come back up later on. Not that they have to. I feel like it's creepier that we never know about certain things, like whatever happened to the guy who boarded up his room and threatened Isaac at the doorstep.
Don't come any closer. You're not getting in. I'm not opening this door for anyone. I don't care what your security clearance is or what your orders are. I'm armed. I'll fucking kill you if you try to get in here. I mean it. Just stay away from the door.
Or how about hearing a baby crying from the other side? Man, this game is full of weird and freaky shit. Part of the reason why I love it so much. The room where there's a bunch of weird airbag things, the sound effect is actually one of the employees who was sick and volunteered to dry heave into a microphone for hours to give off a genuinely eerie sound effect. This is a room that serves no purpose plot-wise, yet they devoted that much effort to it. Bravo. Just before you have to face off with the corrupt AI in the mainframe, you can look carefully at the lobby around you and notice that there's a bunch of birds in cages, and they're all animated too. After over a decade of playing this game, I've never once noticed those cute little birds. They're probably the only innocent creatures left in the entire sprawl. On the main menu, there's all sorts of hidden text outside of the main UI. I'm unaware of what any of it translates to, but the idea that they'd leave the fans to figure out the secrets for themselves is really cool and creative. Not to mention, it's not just a random design. This is the exact look of Isaac's inner mind, which plays a vital role at the end of the game. Given the size and scale of the sprawl in comparison to the player, it's a goddamn miracle Isaac made it longer than 15 minutes in this shitstorm. While examining your surroundings, you'll see creepy stuff like graffiti from a unitologist moments before death, a suicide circle of corpses, books, and a fuck ton of billboard media sponsoring the crooked religion, statues of the marker, giant shrine rooms. There's even a small painting of necromorph faces on the wall just before an elevator trip. It has intuitive moments where the player should be paying close attention during cutscenes. You can never trust this game, even when the story is being told against our will. Such iconic fights like the Tormentor, who grabs Isaac and throws him around like a fucking G.I. Joe, have been permanently ingrained in my mind. The first time I went through them, you bet your ass it scared me shitless. I didn't realize I had to aim and shoot the fucking thing. There's the infamous tram segment where you have to fly like Superman to get to the other half of the broken tram, only to survive the crash and have to defend yourself upside down. In any real-life scenario of this sort, I can almost guarantee my own demise. Isaac's got some balls. In one of the pre-release interviews for the game, Gunnar Wright was interviewed briefly with some moderate questions concerning his role as Isaac Clarke. He said that the worst nightmare he ever had was going online and seeing a compilation of all the different ways Isaac can die in the game. In a way, I don't blame him. When I was a kid and I saw half of the death scenes, it was worse than any jump scare could be, and obviously they are still very effective because people talk about them still today. In the Dead Space series, you don't want to die, but you're never disappointed when it happens in gruesome cinematic fashion. That's because each death scene serves as a reminder to the player, don't fuck up again, or else this could happen. It worked for me as a kid, maybe that's why I'm an expert at the game today. I was just too scared to let Isaac get killed. And how about those suits? They're all designed pretty well, though some do have similar plates and patterns. One of my all-time favorites is the hacker suit. It looks really cool and has possibly the most unique mask for Isaac yet in the series. What the hell is that thing attached to his ass? Who knows? Who cares? It looks fucking cool, and that's all that matters. Isaac's visor illuminates the room in a dim green void of light, which we can imagine must be uncomfortable as compared to having full range of vision or even a fucking flashlight. Though I will say, it's visually appealing to light the path ahead of you in this way. Distant creaks, shouts, and animalistic sounds will throw you off constantly, giving you a false sense of security. You'll never know if the ambiance you hear in a safe area is just background noise or another one of the many mutilated monsters making its way to you. Exploration has its benefits on all difficulties, but when playing through on a tougher mode, it's a good idea to search anywhere you can for ammunition and supplies. Just don't let your guard down, because even in the areas where extra items are offered, the game gives us a grim reminder to pay attention at all costs. Using the Kinesis module, Isaac can lift most physics objects and use them against the necromorphs. Years ago, I demonstrated that the game can be completed, for the most part, without firing a single bullet, but instead using just Kinesis. If you tried that in any modern remake today, it probably wouldn't work. I also really like all of the posters. The propaganda in this universe convinces me that the CEC is a legitimate Americanized company that feeds off of the working class through interplanetary cracking methods. The pictures on the wall remind me of something I'd see in Borderlands, and the numerous data files you find during the story unveil a lot of darker sides to the company than originally imagined. Honestly, I'm just a fan of the game as a whole. Even though it has millions of little things in it, I still think on its own merit it can't be beaten, nor can it be considered competition against something else. It wins, plain and simple. It's a great fucking game. You know if they remake the sequel, it's just gonna be another carbon copy and paste storytelling marketing scheme, right? They're not gonna improve on anything from the original, and I don't have faith in EA to pay critical homage to the titles that we grew up with. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I don't personally think it'll happen in my lifetime. Here's some more reasons as to why you shouldn't remake Dead Space 2, except these things I would categorize as more of a bigger risk. The big things. Dead Space 2's excellent voice acting was accompanied by a series of recorded motion captures by the actors themselves, as they had to portray their respectful characters using only their imagination. What may seem like a hard task to a lot of people, I personally think would be a lot of fun. Imagine having your voice permanently within a video game that people will talk about until the end of time? That's a crazy concept. Gunnar Wright, the actor for Isaac, reprised his role in the remake. It was by far the greatest return of an original cast member for a game to date. I still remember his announcement when they so lavishly bragged they were bringing him back for the new one.
Well, the worst isn't the sweating, it's the cleanup of blood afterwards. How do you sleep at night knowing what's out there? Sleep? What's sleep?
Ever since the second game first released back in 2011 or so, I've idolized his voice acting skills. He was born to be Isaac Clarke, and the idea of a replacement is just wrong.
I don't think that's a good idea.
The story is what drives this supersonic train forward. Isaac isn't alone this time around in the apocalypse. With the assistance of Ellie, a survivor and fellow CEC pilot, Strauss, who is slowly losing his mind due to the disease that the marker has imprinted on him, but with the little sanity he has, he still tries to communicate with Isaac and help him.
Isaac, you're still alive? We can't talk.
through the tracking our signals. Are the memories coming back to you? They're coming back to me. The good ones. And the bad ones. The more I remember, the more my head hurts.
Kurt Cornelius does a fantastic job playing as Nolan Strauss. He's one of those guys you want to feel bad for, but then he goes and rips someone's fucking eye out with a screwdriver. Psycho. The boss fights are anything but boring. When the stakes seem at their highest, you're pinned up against a threat that almost always sneaks up on you. There are tons of great mini-boss segments and cinematic fights that serve this game well. I've been playing it for years and I still have yet to pinpoint my favorite beast to battle. I like the very first boss with the tripod, mainly because you get a proper demonstration of how brutal these creatures are. They don't want to talk, they just want you dead, by any means necessary. You're a fucking pest in their world, and they need to exterminate you. The Brute is a common mini-boss that you'll have to face during the midsection of the game, and though it might seem repetitive to fight them, their fierce strength and mere will to crush you always gives me a chill down the old spine. Their fists slap against the fucking ground like bowling balls. God, that's terrifying. Can't forget about the Ishimura, one of Dead Space 2's most nerve-wracking segments involving making a forced return to the ship where the necromorph outbreak originated. It's a very faithful comeback with creepy tarps and plastic synthetic walls and flooring all over the place, hallways cluttered with shit that was left behind long ago, and abandoned work terminals that still play some ghostly audio messages that can barely be heard. And of course, the interior is riddled with the unfortunate lost souls that were claimed by the USG Ishimura once again. Isaac even hallucinates a few times during his visit here, and as I keep saying like a broken record, the voice acting is really great. You feel attached to everyone involved. You don't want anybody to get hurt or die unless they truly deserve it, like Tideman, who deserves what he's got coming to him. Bastard. Point is, they made the build-up of returning to the doomed ship match the energy within its disgusting walls. No amount of tape or plastic can cover up the pain that was caused all those years ago. Though I have to admit, it's a guilty pleasure to watch Strauss get his brain scrambled by a screwdriver. Don't worry, Strauss. I'll send you to a better place. The feeling of being overwhelmed is what makes Dead Space 2 so great. No matter how many necromorphs you stomp or cut into pieces, there's always 3 more to come and replace the last. They work together in literal hordes to stop you at all costs, something that continues to give me tension today, especially near the finale of the game, which is the last reason why you shouldn't even consider remaking Dead Space 2. And my last point for this video. The finale. The biggest coup de grace in video game sequel history would probably belong to Dead Space 2. It's not just the final fight, it's the build-up to the final fight. You'll be put to the ultimate test with the trials of infected that you'll go up against on your way to destroy the marker. First of all, it's worth noting that once you reach the Gov sector near the endgame, almost every variation of necromorph will charge after you with seemingly no end. Might not sound that different from the rest of the game, but trust me, they weren't fucking around here. You have to sabotage the bulkhead doors, allowing the army of necromorphs to flood inside like, I don't know, a scene out of the Bible. Jesus Christ, there's no end to these things. That's exactly how this ending feels, but it's done so well that you hardly notice it. Your mind is too focused on the game, struggling as you mow them down one by one, sweating profusely and keeping your distance from all the bullshit. Just to pour gasoline on this never-ending inferno, you're being hunted by the Ubermorph. To fans, this guy is like a walk in the park. To anybody who has no idea what a good horror game is, I'll summarize. The Ubermorph is a necromorph that can't be killed, infamously introduced in the first game as the Hunter, then reintroduced in the remake. In the first game, you have to use the flaming engine of a ship to destroy the Hunter completely near the endgame. In the second one, there's no legitimate way to get rid of him. Isaac can only temporarily slow the pursuit of the beast by chopping off its limbs and running for his life. All the while, every other necromorph in the fucking continent is hot on your tail. Leapers, pukers, lurkers, slashers, oh fucking my. One of the most common phrases I use to describe hectic gameplay is sensory overload. I use it way too much, but I mean it when I describe this final push. It's a rush of emotions as we try to pursue the marker. They combine some zero-G obstacle courses and all sorts of other shit until finally there's a physical light at the end of the tunnel. Isaac begrudgingly approaches the marker, weakened and tired, but ready to finish it.
Research in that marker is worth every life we just lost! I won't let
final boss is what makes all of this worth talking about. After spending so long trying to trust Nicole, Isaac's dead ex-girlfriend, she turns out to be nothing more than an illusion devised by the marker itself in an attempt to absorb him. That's some crazy science fiction shit, man. But what's even crazier is now we get to unleash all of that anger onto the one who deserves it the most. In one major push, you have to focus all of your fire on Nicole. If she gets too close, it's game over, and she'll force Isaac to kill himself. You'll quickly be surrounded by children of the marker who are nothing more than the pack from earlier on. It doesn't get any better than this. In all of the video game finales I've remembered over the years, this one stands out the most. Half-Life 2 I thought was the best. Then I played the first Last of Us with the Firefly Laboratories, and of course RE4's ending is still iconic to me, but holy shit. Nothing comes remotely close to just how cinematic, emotional, and creative the final battle is in Dead Space 2. Isaac lets out so much pent-up emotion. He's tired of being scared. This is his redemption, and the entire game is spent with the player pitying him. It sucks that he's being haunted by his past while cursed in the present at the same time. But now, we finally get to feel what he feels. Every time I play this ending, I grit my teeth and I fill that stupid bitch with pulse rounds. In the words of Emil from Halo Reach, payback's a bitch.
Not if we can shoot you first.
God damn it, I trusted you! Fuck you! And fuck your marker!
After all is said and done, Isaac is given back control of his mind and left in the destroyed facility. The credits begin to roll as our hero looks on in defeat, surely to meet his end momentarily. Yeah, it tricked me as a kid too.
You complete bastard. Was this your great plan? Dump me off and die?
Okay, now Isaac is gone and the game is finished. I like the fake out ending even today. They really wanted this to end on the highest note possible. That finale, combined with everything else I just talked about, are the reasons I can't accept that a remake could be underway. There doesn't need to be a fucking remake of everything. Just do something completely different. I understand it's helpful or maybe cool for any young aspiring gamers to experience stories like this for the first time in a much more polished and modern way, but what's wrong with the originals? They're not horribly dated, they don't even look nor play bad, so why attempt to change the formula? Is it because we've officially run out of ideas and have to rehash old stories just for the sake of profit? Do I even need an answer to that? You can't strike lightning twice in the same spot, and I'm afraid too many developers have been following Capcom's footsteps with their shoddy remakes. It makes money, right? Let's just bank off of everyone's nostalgia all the fucking time. Why not? It's not like they need money to pay bills and survive. Dead Space 2 is the greatest horror game. It has eerie atmosphere, intense and terrifying scenarios, long overdue bloody action, fast-paced reactive control, excellent weapon and sound design, and most of all, a story that pulls on your heartstrings, scares you, and fills you with hope, all at the same time. That's a recipe that simply cannot be remade. All these years later, and I still talk about it. I still find reasons to launch it up every now and again, and I always find time to run through the campaign simply because it's that enjoyable. Obviously, I can't stop them from remaking the series. Corporations will do what corporations do. I'm simply suggesting that some of you take a step back and reanalyze the games that we've gotten recently. The remakes, I mean. Are they really that good or that much better than what we had before? Or are we so used to the idea of developers cashing in on our personal memories that we simply don't care? Well, I haven't fucking forgotten. I had Dead Space 2, Far Cry 2, Left 4 Dead, The Orange Box, Time Splitters, Resident Evil, Skate, Saints Row, Red Dead Redemption, Dead Rising, and many more classic titles that I've already covered on this channel. Many of those games already have been remade, and it just seems fucking pointless to me. Nothing can top the greatest experience of my childhood, and in my opinion, that was completing Dead Space 2. It will forever stand to be the greatest horror game of our time, until hopefully someday something else can take its place. It's a fantastic series and a goddamn treasure, and that's why it should never be remade. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time.
Look out, I
Isaac Clarke. Those necromorphs will watch your heart. I know it's the ʀᴇᴍᴅᴅ. I know Nicole would adore ya. Ellie poked her eye, I think it was a loss. All because the marker got you crazy straws. And Tideman's like, bye man, he left the building. Government sector is ruined. Look out, Isaac Clarke. Those necromorphs will watch your heart. I know it's the ʀᴇᴍᴅᴅ. I know Nicole would adore ya. Ellie poked her eye, I think it was a